The first thing that I have to say is I cannot tell you, if I wasn't completely inhibited, which makes everybody laugh because I'm not, but over here, you know where the third movement starts, you have the ya da da dee 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 da dum da dum da dum da dum. The rhythm was exactly right. It's never exactly right. It's like I scream, it's like, it drives me crazy, and you nailed it, absolutely nailed it. And what happens is that, that people accent the second note, da-dum, 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 instead of da-da, 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 and it was just effortlessly perfect. You have no idea how happy that made me. You have no idea how many people I've screamed at about that. It was good. The transition was great. So let's talk about the last movement first, as long as we're there. I think the last movement was just outstanding. It was absolutely terrific. Your fast, repeated notes, your technique was just working just like spot on. For the most part, I think your transitions worked quite well. The transition into it with that long E and then ya-da, dee-da, with the tempo and so on, I thought that worked great. One thing that does come up, and this will come up in the first movement as well, is if you look, and I am really sorry, I don't have page numbers or measure numbers in this, so after the ya-da-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da, when the ba-dum, 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 ba-dum starts, you know where I am. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 measures after that. Okay, you have that yum ta-da. That's a quarter note. Do you see where I'm talking about? So you play the triad, the A minor triad, and then an F major triad to E. Yum ta-da. It's the pianissimo measure.
Yes.
Okay, that's a quarter note. Yum ta-da. You tend to play it short, like an eighth note. So, and there are places where he does a similar figure in the first movement where it is an eighth note, and you want to be sure that you differentiate between those. So yum da da ba da 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 da. You don't have to connect it to the next eighth note, okay? But there's no rest there. So yum da da. All I would do is just put a little line under it, a little tenuto line, so that you remember it's not a staccato. So it's in that measure. 2 measures later, it happens again, and then. Again, it's the end of a slur, so it's not going to be, you know, it's okay to lift, to jump, you're going to have to, but it really should not be like an eighth note. Yum da da, yum ba da, yum ba da. Can you just try that? Boom ba doo, boom.
On the Allegro, for instance.
Yeah. It's just a little tiny difference. It's not huge, but it makes a big difference because it really makes that yum ba da melodic, okay, rather than just a rhythmic feature. After that, and again, I really apologize about tempo stuff or the page measure numbers. When you have your chords that go up,
Yes.
yeah, you know where I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's another spot. Almost everybody I know slows down there because they can't maintain the tempo. Spot on, absolutely spot on. It was excellent. I mean, all the things I was waiting to hear to pounce on. It's like, oh, never mind. Oh, never mind. Really good. It was really good. You can feel superior for the next 5 minutes. I'll time you. so if you move ahead, I pulled that one off on lunch too. So. Okay, at the poco pimoso, before you get to yum ba ba bum 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 ba ba ba, the coda, basically. All right. So that was one spot where I didn't think the transition worked as well as your others. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't amazing. And your other transitions are kind of amazing. So can you try that? So what you want to hear, Henry, is ba 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 be ba ba bum. So if you go to the measure before, what measure number is Pimoso? I can't stand this.
I can read this right here, 215.
215, all right. So we're in 214, okay? So just play the right hand. Ya ba 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 be bum 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 under tempo. Right. So the way that the voice leading works is the G sharp moves to A. So you have this augmented triad, ya da ba 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 ba, and the G sharp then moves up to A. Okay? You need to hear that connection because that's what's going to make that transition smooth. Otherwise, it sounds like you tripped over the door jamb. Okay? Can you try it again? Yes, that's it. Again, just like I was saying to Jesselyn, you don't have to bring it out. All you have to do is hear it. If you can hear it, we'll hear it. Okay? Can you try that? Now maybe back up one measure to 213.
Is that tempo?
Or wherever's comfortable. Both hands, just as written. Okay? Good. Try it again. Better. Okay? That's a spot I would mess around with just a little bit. Okay? Because it still has a little bit of a feeling of a hitch to it.
Yeah, okay.
It could possibly also be your decrescendo. I don't. Can you do it once more? Let's see if I can put my finger on it. Oh, okay. I think I know what it is. 2, 3. All right. So you're doing 2 against 3, right? In 214.
Yeah.
Okay. So do this for me. Start in the same place, but play at this tempo. Yum da 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 dee da da dee. Really slow. Okay. Yeah, so I think what happens there when you get up to tempo, your rhythm is fine right here. When it gets up to tempo, it gets a little scrambled, and your right hand and left hand kind of get a little tangled, so it's not clear. Okay? So try this. Okay, so you have accents in the left hand, so bring that out. But don't go, just try it again. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I think that was better. Do this for me if you don't mind. Play it exactly as written, except when you get to measure 214, after the first chord, don't play the right hand. I just want to hear what happens with the left hand. Okay. Okay, so again, a little bit pertinent to what Jess and I were talking about is that those chords down there, first of all, are voiced very close. They're not spread out. And so that's going to cause a certain amount of muddiness, just acoustically, okay? And the strings that you're playing are probably at least 6 feet long, okay, on a 9-foot piano, at least, probably longer. So the combination, what happens is that you have the accents in there, but because of the voicing that Prokofiev uses, you don't have that issue with the right hand because you're 2 octaves higher. You're playing basically the same notes, but it's much clearer up there. So you need to tweak that left hand a little bit so that it doesn't completely match the right hand so that you don't get too much muddiness down there. I think that's what's going on. Can you try it?
Yeah.
That's okay. Try it again. This is going to take some experimenting. did is you voiced the top a little bit more so we could hear that, but the chord wasn't quite so thick and heavy in there. You know, you can work that out, you know, play around with it, talk to your teacher and just see, but I think that that transition is really important. Okay, and it could use a little bit of tweaking in there, but I thought that was better. That's good. Okay, and then after this, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. In 223, okay, just write that down. What I'd like you to do there is if you would just play your right hand alone, but only the single melody note. Bum, 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 bum. Okay?
Stop number.
223, yeah. So just the right hand, not the thirds, just the melody. Good, that's it, okay? Now, I want you to do that again and play your left hand as written, but not the rest of the right hand, just the melody, okay? So what happened is with the thirds and then the alto voice in there is that the melody got compromised. So again, I know at the risk of repeating myself, you don't have to bring the melody out. All you have to do is hear it. So the trick to that is to hum it to yourself. Yum, bum, 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 bum. If you do that, I think it'll come out. You try it? Good, do it again. Pretty good. What do you think?
Yes.
Well, I thought I could hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I could hear it more. It wasn't as noisy or busy. One of the things, you know, following on the conversation that, you know, that Jesselyn and I had about Rachmaninoff, is you have a different issue with Prokofiev. He was a pianist and he wrote great piano music, but it's not the same kind of thing as Rachmaninoff, that it's not pianistically idiomatic in the same way that Rachmaninoff is, in my opinion. And I think that any composer can benefit from this, but Prokofiev, certainly Ravel, you know, these guys were really, really good orchestrators. And, you know, there are places, we'll talk about it in the first movement, where it will, you know, if you have two different instruments playing the lines that are there, you know, it would come out, it would be perfectly clear to come out. And on the piano, it sounds like one line. It's two voices in the same register, you know, so how do you handle that? So I think that one of the really helpful things when you're dealing with Prokofiev, especially when things start to feel a little tangled, is to orchestrate it in your head. You know, and say, okay, what instrument is this? What instrument is that? So just this place at 223 that we were looking at, he has quasi-tromba, okay, like a horn. And it's that repeated B flat. Bum, 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 bum. You know, and it's got an accent on it, which the melody doesn't. So, it, you know, how do you handle that? And I think rather than trying to do something, you imagine something, you know? So imagine, you know, a trumpet going, bum, 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 while you're going, tick, 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 tick. Try it, okay? You see what I mean? But it's, you know, there are these layers in Prokofiev in a different context than we were talking about the 20th century Bach issue, you know, and the multiple voices in Rachmaninoff. The setting is a little bit different, and it's frankly more awkward in Prokofiev, you know, because he's writing what he wants to hear, and, you know, I firmly believe he's hearing an orchestra going like, okay, your problem, pal, you know, you deal with it. So it's, you know, it makes for a challenging work, but it's, you know, it's a really, I mean, it's wonderful piano music. I'm not saying that in any way critical, but it's one of the things, in my opinion, that makes Prokofiev challenging, certainly in places. Okay, so how about if we take it from the top now? All right.
Right.
Okay, so I would say the first thing at the beginning is I would like to hear more of the melody. So when you go up to that, you have that 10th that you have to roll. Let your arm carry you up to the high A so that sings. Okay? Take it from the top once more and let's give it a shot. Yeah, I thought that was good. I thought that was really good. Keeping in mind, and it's March fortissimo, so yeah, it's supposed to be loud. You know, so it's not that it was too loud in by any stretch. Just remember that the key is not bringing it out, the key is hearing it. Okay? And you're hearing it loud, but it's just, you know, you never ever want to not know what something sounds like. And that sounds kind of crazy. It's like, well, you know, I've been practicing this for months. How would I not know what it sounds like? I went through this when I was a doctoral student with Mr. Bonaventura, and I was playing some Bach, and I just couldn't get my head wrapped around it. I was trying to memorize it, and I was really struggling. And so I went into my lesson, and I said, you know, I don't know why this just, and he's play it, and so then he stopped me. He goes, Sandy, sing the left hand. And I was like, it's like, and he goes, you don't know what it sounds like. He said, you know how to play it, but you don't know what it sounds like. You know, and it was like, okay, all right, you know, and he was right. And I did. And I came back and it was fine the next week, you know, because it's like, oh, okay, your ear is your ally, you know, so you always want to know what that inner stuff sounds like. Even the buddy-da-da-da-da, buddy-da-da, which I'm sure you know that you can hear it. It's clear from your playing, but this is why, you know, practicing individual voices, and separately particularly, but more importantly, individual lines or voices that you see is really helpful, because if you can hear them, then, you know, they'll be clear, because it's clear to you, and if it's clear to you, it'll be clear to us. Okay, so down here, around 11 and 12, in there it got a little bit busier with the accompaniment, so I lost the melody. Okay, again, this is more of an issue where just if you can sing it in your head, it will probably come out just fine. So maybe start measure 9. Exactly. Yeah, that was very clear. Good. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this is what we talked about in the recap, and this is where it comes up in 13, 15. This is where it comes up in the expositions. Measure 17, dum da da. That third is a quarter note. Hang on a second. Okay, so 16. All right, got it. There we go. Okay, so 17, 19, 21, yum ba da, especially after that rhythm, yum da da, because with the rest in there, it's short, yum da da, and so you want to match that, and it's not yum da da. So be sure that that's a little bit longer. 18, 19, and 21, 20, and then this is what I was talking about. Is if you look at 20 and 22, you have 8 notes, dum ba ba, and then the next measure, dum da da, and he's very specific about that. So I would differentiate those a little bit more. Could you take it maybe from 20? Now, one other thing I would suggest that you try, okay, and just see, is when you play the quarter note, tap the pedal. Not very long, but what happens is that we don't have vibrato on the piano, but when you tap the pedal, the rest of the strings open and they vibrate. It's the closest thing that we have. So if a violinist is playing yum da da, yum da da, yum da da, they would just, it's still a fairly short note, it's only a quarter note, yum da da, they would vibrate on it slightly. So if you tap the pedal, not for long, but just a little bit, it's gonna give that kind of color that a violinist might get in there. Can you try that again? Okay, good. How did that feel?
Yeah, that sounds a little better.
Okay, good. Now, you have an absolutely horrific leap,
Yeah.
22 to 23. Isn't that just awful? Okay, so let's think about how you approach that technically. Yum, dum, da, da, yum. Don't connect the C flat and F to what came before. Play it as if it's a grace note to the next thing that comes. So yum, da, da, dum, da, da. It has to do with how you think of it, okay? It's really hard to think that way because the beam hasn't connected to the previous note. So you have to put a break in your head in that beam and connect it to the ba-da. Try it and see if that, do you understand what I mean?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, you're still connecting it to the other one. So what's happening technically, Henry, is that you're doing yada. You want to make a break here. Yum, dee-da. You're doing yada, bum, da-da, bum. I want yum, da-da. Okay, take it slow. Yum, jump, cha-da. Okay. Just do that for me. Ba-bum. Then C flat F down to E flat. Now, that's one motion. Yada. Okay? Try it. Yeah, that's it. Like Spokane. Spokane. Okay? Yes. So what you want to do is make the break. Okay? So it's like twist, Spokane. All right? Because this isn't twist, Spokane. Twist, Spokane. I always loved the name of that town, Twisp. It sounded like cereal, you know? Okay. But if you think of it that way, that's technically going to give you a hand. Can you try it? There you go. That's better. That's a lot better. Good, 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 good. So anywhere you have then in 23, when you have that a quarter note, again, just a little tap of pedal. It's almost like we can't really hear it as pedal. It's not clean. All it's doing is resonating that chord a little bit. Okay, and that was all fine. Okay, now, fiddlesticks, there we go. All right, let me go. Okay, so 31. Okay, so this is a similar spot that we talked about in the recap. This one wasn't quite as successful as far as the rhythm went. This is in 31, 2, 3, 4, 5, 36. Okay, so you nailed it in the last movement, and then this one, the where the beat falls was unclear. Yada, bada, bada, bada. So be sure it's on the first note of the right hand each time. Okay. Maybe back up a little and go into it. Wherever's comfortable. Somewhere around 31, 32.
Oh, okay, that's where I was starting. You mean after the
Okay, hang on. Maybe I was in. Hang on. Let me back this up. Oh, I see where you were. Okay. Sorry, my bad. Well, anywhere in there is fine. Where the issue for me came up was around 36, 37.
Okay, well, I can start closer to there then.
Okay, sure. That's fine. I think the key to help you get set is that accent on the downbeat of 36. You don't have to make it a big one, but it's really helpful because it gets you set up on the right foot. Okay, that was much better that time. Good. Okay, so the moderato, when you're making the transition into the second movement, I thought the rest of this was fine. I noticed that in here you're not using any pedal at all. You might want to, you have to be really careful because this is fairly low. You know, it's doesn't go much above middle C and the octave or 2 down, so it's really different than if it was even an octave or certainly 2 octaves higher. But I think that it's, for my taste, it's a little on the dry side without any pedal at all. You know, you're a very advanced pianist, so you can have advanced pedaling too, which is light and fast, you know? Just on the top quarter of it, it only opens the strings a little bit, but again, it gives some resonance to the sound. It's something to play around with. Just give it a shot and see what happens. So what measure number is the moderato?
54.
54, okay, so can you start right there? The notes that it really affects are those bass notes. You know, it just makes them ring a little bit more. I did not find that muddy in any way. I thought it was very, very clean, but it had a more resonant sound. Try it one more time, and then we have you try it without pedals so that you can compare them and see what you like. Try it off of that. Then you have that, that's a G sharp, right, that ties across the bar line. I would totally pedal that guy. The long notes. Yum, da da, pedal, da da, just to let that ring. Because it'll also help to sustain it. So maybe back up to yum, ba dum, bum. So what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you're floating above the keys. Okay? You're not going to really float above the keys, but you're going to imagine that you're floating above the keys. Okay? Give that a try. Okay, try, it's still a little heavy to me, but that's okay, we can mess with it. When you go from D to G, use a little tap of pedal to connect that and make it legato, so that there's not a gap between those, the octaves in the left hand. Okay? And same thing with the G to the F. A little tap of pedal to connect them. See how that works. All right? Okay, here is what I think. If anything, I would reverse it because you've got pianissimo here, and you know, let's be honest. I mean, this is a chromatic scale. Okay, as I was saying to Jessalyn in one spot and hers too, it's not the melody of the century. Okay, it's a transition. So if you use soft pedal there, but then when you go to the next page, say ya dee da dee, that's a really singing melody. Now, whether you use soft pedal there or not is going to really depend on the piano. Because if you have a screamer, you have to do what you have to do. But keep in mind that, you know, the soft pedal does less to make it soft than, you know. I had a student at BC, he was my chamber music student. He studied outside of school. And he won the concerto competition at our school and played the Tchaikovsky B-flat minor. And I would scream at him. I coached him for 4 years. You know, we did Fauré and Brahms and Beethoven, all kinds of stuff that he played. And he rode the soft pedal like a horse. You know, and I say, Alex, put your foot under the soft pedal. And he's like, okay, you stick it under there. So So I was in about the third row when he played the concerto. Every time it went below a mezzo piano, out would come the foot onto the soft pedal. And his sound, which was beautiful, immediately went clunk. And it didn't project. And it was like, I was sitting there, I was just wanted to run up and throttle it. You know? I was like, no. So you have to be really careful about it. It can be really useful, but you know, always try it out on the piano. But when you have a melody, like you have at the beginning here of the second movement, I would err on the side of, you know, like I said, unless you have a screamer, err on the side of letting the instrument sing. What you want to keep quiet is the stuff underneath it. So it's a little like a Mozart aria, you know, is that what makes the dynamic mostly is the orchestra. You know, I mean, she's singing in the Metropolitan Opera with 5 balconies. I mean, she's got to project, you know, there's a certain amount of dynamics. But what the orchestra does, you know, it can really control the dynamics. So you can play this right hand like you're Renee Fleming, right? And then the lower stuff, really just, you know, sort of misty, cloudy, pianissimo, and it will allow the melody to sing without, you know, without compromising the quality of the sound, which the soft pedal can do. It's, you know, again, this is not something I'm telling you to do right now, but something to consider, and especially when you perform it again, to consider what the piano is capable of and not capable of that you're going to be playing. Okay? All right, just for curiosity's sake, do that transition again at 54. Pedal the long notes so that they're connected and use the soft pedal, and let's just see how it sounds, just for experimental it's saying, you know, really saying, like, you know, like I said, the soft pedal changes timbre as much as controlling sound. And if you have an old piano with hard hammers, you know, the soft pedal is going to scoot them over. It's not going to muffle it as much. It'll just make it quieter. So, you know, there are times that you can use it. But I thought the color was beautiful. This is the place that drives me a little crazy, I have to be honest. Because the notation, you have 2 voices here. Yeah, yeah. Can you play an E for me? I don't have perfect pitch. Thank you. Yeah, da, da, da. And then a second voice comes in on top of it. What we always hear are the upper notes. Ya, dee, da, dee, da, da, dee, da, 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 dum. But it's actually not what he wrote. However, on a piano, seriously, you know, how are you supposed to do this? So you could think oboe, flute, oboe, ya-da, flute, dee-da-da. I don't know, I have never heard that done successfully on the piano. What I hear is a single line. I don't know, Greg?
Yeah, we've talked about this. We've tried singing the other part and bringing it out, and
I mean, it's just, you can't make it happen on a piano. You know, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of thing Rachmaninoff wouldn't have written this way because it's not pianistic. And I think you just have to live with it. But it always, I look at it and it like makes me twitch. You know, so, okay, I just wanted to bring it up. I just didn't know if you guys had talked about it. Okay. The same issue, of course, in the left hand, then, you know, a couple of lines later. So, I think the one thing that you can do that might be helpful is to bring out your thumb on the octave. Ya, 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 dee, da. Play me an E again. I lost it. Thank you. Ya, dee, da, ta, dum, dee. Is to bring that E out because that's what's going up the octave. try it and just let's see what happens. Yeah, I wouldn't do it at the cost of the high E, okay? But what usually happens is we're taught to bring out the top and keep the thumb quiet. So see if you equalize the octave, and let's just see if that changes it at all. It might not. Yeah, I'm losing the high E.
Yeah.
Don't forget to keep the line very, very horizontal. Okay, don't let it get vertical, vertical, vertical. Okay, just like you're bowing a violin. Here we go. I think that's worth messing around with a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, it's at least paying a little bit of homage to it because it's, you know, I don't think you can make it sound the way it would if it was chamber music or an orchestra. A similar thing happens in the left hand later. Yom, dee, da, pum, and you can do the same kind of thing, you know, bringing that bass out just a little bit more. But it's, you know, it's not that pertinent. Be sure before the tempestoso, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, before tempestoso, be sure that your yum da da dee da da is a really long line. I know that he has kind of short slurs in there. I'm not really sure that he necessarily means that to be chopped up that way. So, again, you can kind of experiment with it and think about it, but I think having that longer concept of the line might be helpful. Could you start there? Okay, good. And your teacher and I had a conversation about this spot last night, because this is another one that drives me crazy, is this is clearly the climax of the middle section. And in some ways, it's one of the major climaxes in the whole piece. It is just transcendently beautiful. And it's marked mezzo forte. Really, really. The one piece of advice that I would give you about it is I think it's fine if it's louder than mezzo forte. However, what I would think about is I wouldn't think about this kind of a forte. I would think about this kind of a forte. Okay?
What is forte in this score? So.
Is it really? Okay, yeah, it's in most scores it's in mezzo forte. But in any case, what I want you to think of when you play this is not powerful, not a Bartok type forte. I want you to think of big and round. Okay? So if you can use your imagination at the end of the piano, make an enormous colorful bubble. All right? And you're going to put the sound in that bubble. If you blast it in there, the bubble will pop. Okay? Just try it. Okay? It's just using your imagination. So back up 4 measures, go into it. Nice and horizontal. And let it move. Okay, good. That's the idea. Okay? What it does is it allows you to play big without it being percussive. Okay? Now, at the end where you just stopped, the last 5 measures of this, you have a diminuendo written. Okay? Keep in mind, diminuendo does not mean subito piano. Okay? So let's say you're at, if 10 is the very loudest that you can play, and 1 is the very softest. Okay? Let's put this at a 7. It's not quite at an 8, but at a 7. So and you want to end at pianissimo, maybe a 2. Okay? Because there's a triple P in here somewhere. So if you look at that at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before the tempestoso as 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. So what happens is by using numbers, it helps helps you to control the diminuendo a little bit because yours is a little bit like an elevator that's slightly out of control. And it kind of goes, you know. So, all right, so try and use the numbers. Okay, so go to the the mezzo forte in your part. Do you see how the numbers can help you control that diminuendo? All right. It's a really helpful trick. I use it all the time myself. You know, because when you have a long diminuendo, it's just, you see dim and drop. Okay? Now, when you start the allegro tempestoso, going into this last movement, remember it starts with the rest. You really need to feel it. Okay? You don't have to do what I did and go, but you want to at least make sure it's there. Because what it does is it means that beats 2, 3, and 4 are an upbeat. If you don't do it, beat 1 sounds like it's on beat 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, and then you're short a beat. You have a 7-beat measure, and it's like, wait a minute, this isn't right. Okay, so you feel that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so watch out for that. Okay, what's the measure number of tempestoso?
94.
94.
Excuse me, 96.
96, okay. All right, that works. I just downloaded this when I got here, so that's why I didn't do the measure numbers because I thought I had done it, and so I didn't do it last night. Okay, so 96. All right. I really liked at 105, 106, 106, 107, where you have those F, D, you really captured that percussive, like timpani. And you can just see timpani going bum, 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 bum. And I thought you did a great job with that. I thought it worked absolutely beautifully. 8, 9, 10. So 113, where you have all those so what I wrote for that area was organized. Now I'm not quite sure what was happening that made me think you needed to organize it, but maybe you could play it.
From
Maybe 110.
110. Okay.
Is that an okay place to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is, I think I gave you the one movement over there actually. 110 is the
When you have the chromatic thirds in the left hand with the ABA sign?
yeah.
Okay, that's
Start
110.
there. Got it. Okay, so I don't know if you started at a slightly different tempo than you wanted, but you know your tempo changed, right? Yeah, that was good.
Oops. Okay, let me try it again. Yeah, I don't know what I meant by organized so, because I thought that sounded fine. The one thing I would say is that 13, 14, 115, 116 is that your left hand gets slightly uneven. And because of the nature of it, you know, again, it sounds like percussion or timpani, it sticks out. So you kind of can't hide it. So what I would try is play your left hand down here and play your right hand on the keyboard cover. So you can be sure that your right hand isn't leading your left hand down the primrose path and screwing it up. Okay? So you'll hear if this gets messed up. Remember that in this spot, your left hand is the metronome. Your right hand has to fit into the left. Okay? So that's always good to know. I think from there we talked about, we talked about most of this. Okay, a little bit at the più animato. Okay, going ahead. thought your transition into the piano motto and the part before that was really very, very good. It was really nice. So what, can you see the measure number of piano motto?
132.
100 and
132.
132, thank you. Okay. So 32, 33, 34. At 136, there's a crescendo there. This would be an excellent place to also use the number system to help you get a gradual crescendo. And remember when you're at 140, it's forte, not fortissimo. You're going to have fortissimo later, okay? So don't give away the store yet, all right? Okay. Now, this was another spot. Make sure it's one. Let's see, 40, 41, 2. So 143, 144, 145. That's another place I think you could afford to use a little bit more pedal. Okay, because again, it was a little bit on the dry side, I thought, and you know, as long as you're careful with it, I think the resonance would be really helpful. Do you want to try it?
Okay, this is 144. Or
Yeah, maybe start 143.
okay, or
Wherever's comfortable.
I'll just start at the beginning of that section.
Sure. Your right hand, for the most part, I think is high enough that it's not going to be a big deal. Can you start in the same place and just play your left hand alone and just try pedaling for your left hand and let's see what happens. Orchestrally here, you know, and the brass instruments or the cellos or whatever, you know, they can sustain in a way that the piano can't, and the pedal helps that to happen. So it's going to give it a more full orchestra feel. Okay, we're not looking for anything being muddy, but I think it would benefit. So I would play around with adding some pedal in there. Okay. Now, you have the triple forte down below, right?
Yeah.
43, 44, 45, 146.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, you can only maintain that so far, and you know, using pedal, half pedal, partial change, whatever, is going to build up the sonority, you know, because you need the help from the 80 plus other strings that are in there, you know, because otherwise, you know, you aren't playing that many at a time. So again, you have to find a compromise, but I think that you can use some more pedal in there just to help you get that bigger, fuller sound. Okay, and then we talked about this. That's actually the end of the second movement. So then we talked about the third movement already, which was Dynamite. So those are just a few of my ideas, but I think you're doing a great job with it. It was a really, really exciting performance, so congratulations.